All right.
Yes. So, number 3 podcast force. Thank you for coming by. Everybody, I call this Dr. Deb. And so I wanted to introduce her. She is our 3rd guest on our podcast. You guys are in for a treat. There's so much about this lady that it's hard to put it into just an introduction. And the short time that I've gotten to know her, the amount of knowledge, the experiences, the stuff. We just spent about an hour through your laptop looking at pictures of probably just the last few years of your life. And I could tell that it would take weeks and weeks and weeks just to get to know you in the last few years you've had. But the reason she's here is because of her being a doctor. And, I got to meet her through, I think everybody who's been following our channel knows my buddy Wayne Justice. I've had him on the show, and he's 75, I think. And him and I have been buddies for 30-some odd years. And he's been battling cancer. And I try not to ever say that because he's winning it, and we just, I call it just a bump in the road that he's trying to go over, and it's a positive attitude that we want to keep about it. But he was able to meet her through a friend of his, and he met Deb, and then Deb, I got to meet Deb through Wayne. And I've been, my whole life I've been interested in kind of home health or taking care of yourself naturally. My mom, I'd never eat spinach. So when I was little, back in the 60s, my mom would be putting spinach in a milkshake, and because I like milkshakes, she said, you need to eat more greens, and I hated greens, so she'd put spinach in there, and I never tasted the spinach, and I'd have a green shake, and I was like, she got me to eat my greens, So Mom did that years ago, and then I had problems with acne and stuff, and so we put eggs on my face and go out in the winter and try to clear up my skin. And little did I know later on in life that it was really what I was eating was giving my acne. And I've learned so many things about, what I was suffering from as a child or a teenager and then a young adult. And foods that I would eat would give me so much gas and so much problems using the bathroom. And we're going to talk about health today. All right.
All right.
So we're going to get down and dirty about all.
Topic.
Yes. And I ended up getting to know Deb. And she is a fire hose of knowledge. All right. So if you're not ready, this doesn't come out in a little trinket. It comes out in a fire hose. All right. So I'm going to try to hold her back. The knowledge she has. She's a massive way of communicating. I sent you a link, to Gary Brecka.
Okay.
All right. So Gary Brecka is on YouTube. He's this human biologist, which is not certified in a school, a clinic. He hasn't got any title, there's no certificate, which you have tons on your wall. He doesn't, and he's making these tons of money sharing information that is so on the surface level of health and longevity. And getting to know you, your knowledge and in depth of knowledge is so deep and it's so profound that and then you were able to take it on a ground level that makes sense for everybody to do it inexpensively in their home. And that's what we're going to get into today. Perfect. Is how these stars and movie stars, and I loved how the one topic you told me, you said, how these models and ladies have that beautiful skin and they're, they don't have any cellulite and stuff, and all they do is this. And you said, you can do this for pennies, and the ladies and men can have beautiful skin. I was like, all right, this is golden. And that's when I thought I wanted you on the podcast. And in the amount of knowledge that she has, we could have a podcast every week. And of course, you've talked about having your own podcast, which I think you should very, very shortly after the world gets to know you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with any further ado, I wanted to introduce, I call her Dr. Deb. She can give you her formal introduction. And what I'd like to do is just, introduce yourself maybe a little bit, and then into your, how you. It's an amazing. I don't know where to start because there's so much about you, but we can condense it down a little bit, and then I want to get into some stuff.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
All right. So my name is Dr. Deborah Langheld. I am a naturopathic doctor, a naturopathic physician. I have a active physician's license, a naturopathic physician's license. But I'm living currently in the state of Tennessee, and Tennessee does not recognize naturopathic doctors. So 26 states and jurisdictions in the United States recognize naturopathic doctors. Tennessee's not one of them. So in this state, I can only act as a natural health consultant, and so that's what I do. Luckily, it doesn't prevent me from doing a lot of what I would be doing in a state that I'm licensed in anyway. I am board certified physician. I'm also board certified in pharmacology and minor surgery. So we take a lot, naturopathic doctors, our medical school curriculum is very, very similar to a regular medical doctor, a conventional medical doctor, except we have about a year's worth more of training in other things such as homeopathy, nutrition, botanical medicine, physical medicine, and many other things. So our toolkit is a lot larger. So if you compare primary care physicians, we just have a lot more than just drugs and surgery as options for what we can do to help people. And I like that a lot. I feel like a primary care physician our job should be to keep people out of the specialist office, out of the oncologist's office or the nephrologist, or, we want to keep you out of the specialist's office and keep you healthy. And so I think naturopathic doctors are uniquely suited and perfect for that job. We help with chronic degenerative diseases that allopathic or conventional medicine doesn't really know what to do with. They just say, we're going to keep an eye on it when, like maybe your kidney is slowly not working as well. They just look at it until you're in stage 4 chronic kidney disease or you need dialysis, and they don't have a lot to offer you before you get to that point, but we do. So naturopathic physicians, we try to reverse the trends before they are bad and help you regain balance and health in your life. So that's what I do. So I'm a natural health consultant, and I see people and try to do what I can to educate them on what they can do at home inexpensively and easy to help them regain their health.
Yeah. And and I appreciate describing your degree or your medical part of you.
Yeah.
But she was also an engineer for 20 some years.
Yeah.
Right. You were also in the Navy. She's also a skipper.
Yeah.
She's also a hang glider. She's also a rock climber.
Yeah.
So there's a lot about this lady that is amazing. And we'd love to get into that some other, God, it could go on, like I said. But she was a mechanical engineer, which I like talking to her because I like building stuff. And I showed her around today of the buildings that we built.
It's pretty spectacular around here.
So it was cool to get your opinion on that. But she's well-diversed and rounded, I think. You just didn't come in, boom, med school, been a doctor and done. You've lived, you've lifed, you've went through a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Your father had open heart surgery while you were in med school.
Yes.
And now you found out, I thought was unique, as you said, Dad, if I would have known what I've known now, he wouldn't have not had the triple
surgery.
bypass. And then you told me about the Tums and...
Right, yeah. So, while I was in medical school, after my first year, so I've taken basic courses at this point, basic anatomy, and I went home to my parents' house in Tennessee to visit with them and for Christmas. And while I was on the plane, they said, we're taking you straight to the hospital because your dad's in the hospital. That was my mother telling me. And because he's going to have bypass surgery. And we didn't know if it was going to be double or triple bypass, but they had said triple. Turned out he had double bypass surgery. And, I knew where the heart was and I knew the anatomy of the heart, but I didn't know a lot of pathology yet because I was still a very new medical student. And so I got to talk to the doctor a lot and see where the blockage was. And it was in a common spot in the LAD, left anterior descending artery, where it typically is for people. And so his was in a unique spot, though. It wasn't distal in the artery. It was very proximal, very high, right where it branches off of the left anterior left artery, the left coronary artery. So very close to the branching point, which means a stent wasn't allowed or possible. They had to do bypass. So they rushed him into surgery. And I remember, looking at the heart because the doctor found out I was a medical student and sat me down and let me look at the angiogram, and I could see my dad's heart pumping. And he asked me to look at it. The doctor did and said, he said, what do you see? And I said, well, I see the left anterior descending artery, I see the left coronary artery. So I'm just, that's all I knew at that point was anatomy. And then he said, well, what do you see right here? And I said, well, I see that the blood's making it all the way to the apex of the heart. So there's usually when blood does not make it to the bottom of the heart, the apex, then you'll see a weak, an anemic pumping. You won't see it pumping strongly because the muscle's starting to die because it doesn't have enough blood to pump. But my dad's heart was pumping really well. It wasn't, so even though it was blocked at the top and, it looked almost 100% blocked, like maybe the red blood cells had to stand in line and turn sideways to get through the blockage. It looked 99.9% blocked. I can't believe he was walking around. But what didn't make sense was that the artery below the blockage was healthy. So, but I'm like, okay, well, there's a blockage and it's here and I can see the blockage. We need to do a bypass. And so I said, yeah, let's get him to have a bypass. And so we did. But what I didn't realize that is if you have a blockage like that and if the artery looks healthy below it, it's usually because you have created your own angiogenesis. The heart has already created its own bypasses and is feeding the artery through other means, through smaller little arteries. And that was what was happening to my dad's, which means he probably could have been fine without the bypass surgery. We could have done other things to help encourage more angiogenesis around the bypass, and then he wouldn't have had to go through the suffering of breaking open his rib cage, and because it's a very traumatic procedure, even though it's done a lot, it's very traumatic.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of healing involved afterwards. So, but he did just fine, and he's doing great now, and better than he was before the surgery. So that's great. But had I known then what I know now, I would have been less anxious to jump him into surgery because the artery was healthy all the way to the bottom. And then when they did the surgery, they said there was no heart damage at all because he had not had a heart attack. He just was feeling symptoms of like an elephant on his chest and a little bit of shortness of breath when he exerted himself. So only with exertion. He wasn't showing signs of like nocturnal dyspnea, which is, when you lay down at night, you can't breathe. He didn't have the more alarming symptoms. It was just when he was walking up some stairs with some heavy weights that he felt this elephant on his chest. And that was the impetus that got him to go to the hospital. And so then all the tests were done and one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, he's having surgery. But the fact that he didn't have those other symptoms and he was doing fine and it was only under exertion, I would have, like I said, been less likely to jump into surgery, and I would have wanted to try some other things first.
Right.
And
which
but
you're
anyway,
implementing now with his boots.
Yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
we've got him doing some things that it's still the studies there's not large demographic studies for a lot of the things, because you can't make money on this, it's not drugs and it's not surgery. So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of studies being done on some of these things, but you can do an EECP therapy, which you can pay to have done here in this country. It's just you have to find a center that will do it. And it's an enhanced pulsation. I'll have to look up the exact words, but basically you put your legs, you go to a clinic that specializes in this, and you put these pneumatic boots on your leg, and they hook your hand up to an oximeter and also a blood pressure cuff, and they very precisely measure your systolic and diastolic, blood pressure along with your heartbeat and when the actual pumping is happening, and they inflate and deflate these boots that go all the way up to your femoral crease, so right up to your crotch. So the boots are big, and they inflate and deflate to a rhythm matching your heart, and that's the Cliff Notes version. And what this does is it puts a back pressure on the blood on your heart, which forces angiogenesis. It forces new arteries to form and go around the blockage. And it's done in Europe a lot more than the United States, but it's been proven to work better for people who were in the situation that my dad was in, where he's feeling this elephant on his chest and he has some symptoms, but he's not, it's not inhibiting his lifestyle yet, but something needs to be done. There's obviously a blockage somewhere, otherwise he wouldn't have the symptom. then doing this EECP therapy is very, very effective, and it's not drugs and it's not surgery, and it works great. So something that I try to mimic at home using a different process, and I have no proof that says that this works as well as the EECP, but it does put a pressure on your legs, which as your heart beats, when it tries to push the blood back into the systemic, your body, it's going to feel a back pressure, and theoretically it should be growing some new blood vessels.
And you said he was a police officer for years.
Absolutely.
And then what I thought was unique, and we talked about the Tums.
Yes.
And he used to eat them like crazy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've had my problems with my stomach too.
Yeah, that's what I remember growing up. My childhood is he had this giant container Tums that he would put in his bathroom and eat them all the time like candy. And I suspect, I have no proof, but I suspect that contributed somewhat to some of the, atherosclerosis and hardening of the arteries, because when you eat Tums, it's a lot of calcium carbonate, and it dramatically increases your serum calcium in your bloodstream quickly. And you got to be able to take that calcium out of your bloodstream quickly and escort it to where you need it, which is your bones, right? And to other places that you need it, and your teeth and other things. Even your muscle cells, your myocytes use calcium in the sarcoplasmic reticulum to contract. That's what makes our muscles contract, is calcium, and magnesium makes them relax. So, calcium's used everywhere in the body, but you don't want it floating around in high concentrations in your bloodstream, because calcium is very sticky. It has a +2 molecular structure, so it wants to stick to injured tissue. Well, if the first injured tissue it might see is the endothelial lining of your blood vessels, and so then it'll stick to your blood vessels and start contributing to plaque accumulation. So, keeping a good, an optimal serum calcium is really important for,
right.
You're not increasing your risk of a coronary event.
You're right, right. And I just, learning what's been unique about meeting you is you've been able to expose all these normal lifestyle things that we do.
Yeah.
And you're able to, and you've educated me, the little bit that I've gotten to know you, is that how these things are really damaging us, the little things that are normal in everybody's life.
Right. Well, taking a Tums occasionally is not a big deal, but
right.
eating 10 or 12 of them every single night, for years and decades, that is a lot of calcium. That is a lot of calcium.
Some of my friends, they live on Tums.
Right. So there are much more effective, actually healthy ways to deal with heartburn,
Right.
And if you have heartburn, it's usually because you have low stomach acid, and so people think, I need to suppress the stomach acid, and that's actually the opposite.
And they drink milk or something, right?
So you'll get famotidine, or you'll over the counter. You can do all kinds of proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole. People take all these things to lower their stomach acid because they have heartburn, 1 to 2 or 3 hours after they eat. But really, the answer is increasing their stomach acid before they eat their first bite of food, especially a meal that has protein in it. And so that's very counterintuitive, but it works like a charm. I have helped many, many people get off of omeprazole or famotidine, and because one of the things that I've seen clinically, but and there's studies that also show, and this is something anyone can look up, but if you take a proton pump inhibitor for a long time, years, it will start negatively affecting your kidneys. And you're like, well, why? Why would that be? Well, it's because you can't digest your protein in your stomach, because your stomach acid's so low, because you are dampening your stomach acid on purpose, thinking that that's going to help you. And it does help the symptoms, but now you can't break apart your protein, the peptide chains, because you need high acid to do that. And that's why we have a stomach. We have a stomach, so we have a high acid, so we can break those peptide chains, so that way when they make it into the small intestines, then you can absorb it. But if you skip that first step and you don't break up those protein chains because you've suppressed your stomach acid, then a couple hours later you're gonna your kidneys have to pee out every steak that you eat. I mean, you basically are putting stress on your kidneys, because now your body has to get rid of all this protein that's not digested. So that extra stress that's chronically happening because you're taking omeprazole, that will lead your kidneys it can increase your risk of your kidneys having trouble later in the long term.
Exactly.
So when I look at people's blood work and I see that they're not absorbing their protein because they have their blood work says low protein, and I see their GFR, that's their glomerular filtration rate in their kidneys, going down, and I see a few other indicators, that then the first thing I ask is, are you taking Tums? Are you taking famotidine? Are you taking omeprazole or any other proton pump inhibitor to suppress your stomach acid? And they say, I have to. If I eat anything at all, if I eat anything, I get heartburn and it's horrible, right? So then I have to start distinguishing between GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux, and then or heartburn, which is a little bit different. And so they can be related and overlapping. And if you feel the pain, 1 to 2 hours after you eat, that is typically more of a low stomach acid problem, meaning you are suppressing your stomach acid and you really need to be increasing it. But then still, like if people like, okay, well, I'm doing what you're saying, I'm increasing my stomach acid before I eat, but now 2 hours later I still feel that heartburn, you must do something about it. You don't want to be having a gastroesophageal reflux in your throat and have that burning in your throat, because it will actually, your throat goes all the way down really low. So it's actually that heartburn feeling is actually your esophagus burning. And it can be because the lower esophageal sphincter's open and it's coming up, but it will cause a metaplasia over time, which means you don't want acid in your throat. So if you feel the symptom, you must do something about it. But I like to get to the root of the problem first, which is increase your stomach acid before you eat a protein meal, right? And then hopefully that will prevent you from having heartburn a couple hours later. But if you still have a little bit of symptoms, you should take a peppermint fennel ginger oil. Very inexpensive. It soothes everything and it will help you not have the burning in your throat. But peppermint should never be taken before you eat because it opens the lower esophageal sphincter and it can actually make GERD worse. You can only take the peppermint fennel ginger after you eat, like 1 to 2 hours after you eat, when you feel that heartburn. So there's definitely ways to dial this in, and I have to do a full intake for people and ask them what their symptoms are, and then I can tell them, try this, and this is, I can give them a little protocol.
Yeah, no, that's why you've got me taking the bitters before I eat.
Exactly.
Right?
Spray some bitters on your tongue. That's a super natural way of stimulating your stomach to create some hydrochloric acid in advance of your meal, right? And so you're not even supplementing with exogenous hydrochloric acid. You're actually just stimulating your own body to prep your stomach for your meal, which is fantastic.
It's worked for me.
Yeah, and it does a lot. And so the thing is, people are like, oh, well, I hate bitters, and so I'll put it in the back of my mouth with the spoon, and I don't want my tongue to taste it. Well, you're defeating the purpose when you do that, because the whole way that bitters works is you have to taste it on your tongue, and it's your tongue tasting the bitters that stimulates your secretion of bile and hydrochloric acid creation and all of that. So you really need to spray on your tongue is perfect because it aerosolizes the bitters and it makes it so you can taste it a lot. And then you don't have to use hardly any, so it'll last you a long time, the spray. And just like 5-10 minutes before you eat a meal, spray it on your tongue. You will digest your food better, and in some cases, that's enough to eliminate some heartburn.
It has taken care of me. My son just left for Denver, and he was here.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, Carson, you got to take them bitters right there before you eat, because he has the same thing,
That's
heartburn. Right. He said, oh, I hate this. I said, no, don't wash it down.
No.
Let it sit in there.
That's right. You got to taste it.
And we'll get into pain is gain later on, but I said, let it sit on your tongue.
Yeah.
And I'm already out of my bottle. It's gone, I've only had it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But every time I took my bitters, yep.
You won't get heartburn.
Yeah. I was good right after, and I didn't have any bloating either.
Yeah.
It's
because you're digesting your food better.
Yeah.
So then all that gas and bloating that might happen from undigested, when you have high enough stomach acid, everything's better.
Is that so? And to think that all I have to do is spray that. All right, this is what blows me away. And I love what the type doctor you are. Mm-hmm. As I just squirt it on my tongue.
Yeah.
And I have suffered the majority of my life with bloating. I remember having Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody was so excited, and I dreaded it because I knew I needed to eat, and I wanted to. I was sick for 8 hours after dinner.
Yeah.
I'd literally, I could see my stomach swell up, and I have to unbuckle my pants because it would just swell up, and I was sick, and I would wait till it digested, just that little thing. And I know there are millions of other things, and the little bit that I've learned from you, of the simple things that you do. Now, Deb also, I learned the word tincture.
Tincture, yes.
Yeah, tincture. I learned that. But she actually grows a lot of her own herbs and makes her own tincture
Yes.
for medicinal purposes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and what is really neat, and I'm hoping this will turn into a long friendship between her and I, because I would like to see those things being made more. And I know the ladies in our communities that we have, our tiny home communities here, are always looking for stuff to do and hobbies and stuff. And you want to teach people how they can make these. I call them potions, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. and how they're so good for you.
Yeah.
You know, you took that one thing off your plant and it was for the tooth to numb your gum.
Spilanthes, that's called the toothache herb. That's the common name.
Numb to me. I mean, like,
yeah,
I was
it'll numb your mouth. Absolutely.
And I seen a guy, I tell you what, I was over at Weigel's the other day, and he was in there and he got Oragel. And he got Goodies powder.
Yeah.
And I've come outside and he was on the hood of his truck, man, and he was doing it. And I looked at him, I said,
got a toothache, huh?
I said, you're killing me. He goes, oh man, I'm hurting, you
Yeah.
know? And I thought, I wish I had one of them, you know, plants that I could help
Yeah.
him.
Well, so interesting that you bring that particular plant up right now. For 4th of July, I rode my bike into Norris, and they have a big festival in Norris. And the first booth I get to, this woman wanted to talk to me about some herbs, and she said her husband had a toothache, and it was really bothering him. And what do I recommend if there's any plant medicine? And I said, well, if it's on his gums, he's going to need to put on gums. And it's really, unless you have the Spilanthes flower, which is this little yellow gumdrop that has a little bullseye on the top. And if you had the plant, you could just pull the flower off and put it right where on your gum, you know, maybe chew it a little and then hold it, you know, right against your gum, and it would numb it. But that's not very convenient for most of us. For me, it would be, but not for most other people. So then that inspired me. So since 4th of July, I actually harvested a bunch of I had a big tincture bottle of my Spilanthes tincture. And then I made a really concentrated one, and I added a gelling powder to it, and I made a Spilanthes gel that can be put on your gums to numb it. And so then you could just carry it around, and like people can use it like Oragel, but it's from a plant, and it works really, really well. But it will get everywhere on your tongue and everything. And don't be eating some food that you care about after that, because you won't taste it, because it definitely numbs your mouth.
I was numb for 30 minutes afterward.
Well, it definitely numbs it, and it works good. So I was real proud of my new little Spilanthes gel, because usually what I use Spilanthes for, even though the common name is the toothache herb, because it does a good job of numbing the gums and everything, is it also is highly antibacterial and antiviral. So I turn it into a spray, and I add echinacea tincture to it and a few other things, and I make a throat spray. And so with different coronaviruses that have been going around and other kinds of colds. Anytime you have a sore throat, like you feel like your throat is sore, you can spray this throat spray in that's Spilanthes with a little bit of echinacea and some other things, and it will actually numb your throat. So the echinacea also has a numbing, like a buzzing bee quality to it. So when you mix the two together, it really numbs your throat, but it also kills the stuff that's in your throat.
Yeah.
So it works really, really well. And so I make that throat spray, and it works good I have a lot of clients who love it. So they ask me for it. So
well, and you make these, and you tell me, Randy, you can make these for pennies.
yeah, well, yeah, it's very, very inexpensive.
And it's all natural. It's inexpensive.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if we bottled it and bought it on a health food store, it's going to
Yeah,
cost
you can buy Spilanthes
enormous.
on Amazon. Just type in Spilanthes, and you'll see these tincture bottles from like Herb Farm and some other brands like Wise Woman Herbals, and they sell them. And you could buy Spilanthes tinctures right now. The interesting thing is I've done a taste test where I put a drop and I taste it, and I compared two different brands of Spilanthes tinctures with my own, and mine is way stronger. But I think it's because I harvest it myself, and I chop up the herbs, and I make my own tincture, and it's a lot more powerful. So that motivated me to start growing a lot more medicinal herbs. So I grow everything like artemisian, valerian, and mugwort, and so many astragalus, and all these medicinal herbs I grow.
You're a walking book. I mean, the things, we could just go on and on about this. And the one thing I remember, we just was talking about it, in the kitchen here, about the gentleman with I don't know if we won't mention the name, but his prostate.
Yeah, right.
Cancer. And so as we all get older, all us guys, we got. It's just something's going to happen. And I mean, that's something of life. As you get older, your
Right.
prostate enlarges and all that stuff. And he had cancer. And I
Yeah.
thought it was so unique of that story, if you want to share that.
Yeah, so this is general for everyone, actually. But, prostate cancer is, something that men have to worry about when they get older. Your PSA, your prostate-specific antigen, might slowly start increasing, and some people will get prostate cancer and some people won't. And there's a very, very fast-growing prostate cancer, and that one's much harder to deal with. And then there's the slow-growing one, and the slow prostate, or slow-progressing one. And it depends on your age. Like if you're diagnosed at 50, they'll, the oncologist will give you some options on what to do. But if you're older, if you're like, 75 or something, and you have stage 1 prostate cancer, that's the slow progressing one, oftentimes conventional medicine will say, it's so slow, it progresses so slow that it's not worth doing a lot about, because, it's just so slow, you'll die of something else first, like heart disease or something else. And there's some truth in that, but that's what conventional medicine, that's how but if you had been diagnosed with, stage 1 when you're 50 or 45, they would give you options of things to do because, presumably you have many more years left in your life. But the reason for like a 75-year-old or something that they would say, it's not worth doing anything, they don't even give you really options typically, because they assume that, it's based on a demographic data of the average lifespan of a male in this country, and it's usually mid-80s, and so like 84, I think. It might be different. I'll have to look it up, but that's what comes to mind. And so if you're 75 and the average lifespan is 84, you got 8 or 9 years left. And so, yeah, you'll, if it takes 16 years for this prostate cancer, when it typically the PSA starts going up and causing problems, then it doesn't make sense to treat it. I mean, honestly. So there's truth in that. But, if you're lucky enough to be a human who, male that that has a very high likelihood of living to 100, then you're in trouble. Like you need to try to do something active if you can to try to slow the progression down of the, and even though it's very slow, and that's true, so what is there anything that can be done that's been proven in epidemiological studies to make a difference, to actually help slow the progression? And the answer is yes. And there's a lot of things that can be done, but the 3 things that are probably my top choices that are lifestyle ththings would be to eat Brazil nuts. So 3 Brazil nuts has a therapeutic dose of selenium in them, and 6 walnuts. So that's both halves. So that would be like 12 halves. And then also 1 to 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, because that has concentrated lycopene in it. So when you combine selenium, which is in the Brazil nuts, and that 3 is like medicine, Brazil nuts, and it's highly anti-cancer fighting. But with the walnuts specifically, and then the tomato paste, that is the recipe to slow PSA down. It actually decreases the PSA, the prostate-specific antigen, and it's been shown to cause tumor apoptosis, which means cell death of the tumor. So that is fascinating, and it's published. These are published studies that show that this works. So, why not, right? And so people are like, well, how am I going to eat 2? And so then they say, well, can I do diced tomatoes or a tomato? No. It has to be concentrated tomato paste. So tomato paste, not even tomato sauce. Really, you want tomato paste, really concentrated. That's what concentrates the lycopene. And so how do we eat that? Well, how are you going to get 1 to 2 tablespoons? Well, it's easy, ketchup. Like if you like ketchup, make your own homemade ketchup, make it with less sugar, make it with something that you and I have talked a lot of times about different healthy sugar substitutes that aren't bad for you, like glycine and D-ribose and allulose and some other ones. And you can make it sweet still, and you can even make your own barbecue sauce using tomato paste. And so make your own barbecue sauce and tomato paste, and then just make sure you eat it on things during the day as much as you can, and
I like it on my eggs.
You can do a lot with reducing your risk of the progression accelerating. So
you've made me, of course, I'm getting up there a little bit. I don't like to say it, but nobody does. But I thought, with what I'm learning about this, and I've done my blood work. And so when I got my blood work done, I had opportunity to give it to 2 other doctors. Mm-hmm. And they looked at the main, oh, yeah, you're good here. Oh, you great levels and all that stuff, right?
Right.
Then I gave it to you. And then it was like, whoa. You still said I was good, mm-hmm. but you found I was starting hardening of the arteries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I eat all this good stuff. And I'm like, I'm getting hardening of the arteries.
Right.
Well, it's because I've got other issues that, like the protein not being digested and the vitamin B6 that I'm not being able to process because I got the MFR or something thing going. And anyway, if I would have listened to these doctors and not pursued it further with you, I mean, I could have ended up, and that's how I think a lot of these people say, well, this guy run a mile every day of his life, and he was a athlete, and then he just fell over dead.
Right.
So I might as well just smoke cigarettes and eat what I want because you're never guaranteed how it's going to be. Some people, so I know for me, and I bet people watching this, we go and we listen to, I was vegan for 3 years, okay? So I said, I want to live because I don't want to get cancer and I don't want to get heart disease. So I said, I'm going to be a vegan. So I did vegan for 3 years, and I lost so much. I felt like I lost a lot of muscle. I got lean, like not a healthy lean. I still had stomach fat, and I'm like, I just wanted to maybe try to get a 6-pack and look a little bit more healthy. Didn't happen.
Right.
And I did it for 3 years. Now I may have done it wrong. Okay, maybe I didn't know my way of the food process and how you combine them together. So then I went carnivore, and I'm doing all these things, but I was following the people on the internet, right?
Right.
And so Dr. McDougall and Dr. McGregor and all these guys have been in forever, and I watched them and I said, okay, no oil, no, olive oil. Then you get this other cardiologist said, drink olive oil. And I know people are getting frustrated because I don't blame them. They hear two different stories from two experts, and they're saying, we don't know what to do, And so now I've decided, after meeting you, and you proving to me on my blood work what I need to do to live. I'm looking forward to 10 years from now. I want to be better than I am now. I want to be stronger. You have every
reason to believe you can do that.
Isn't that something? Yeah. And see, you're the first one to tell me that in 10 years, I can beat what I am now. I tell you what, I feel better now than I did when I was 45.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago.
My parents are so much more healthy now than they were 6 years ago. I mean, you can even see it in photographs. They are just way more healthy. My mom had prediabetes and, was on the verge of being a diabetic, right on that edge. And she was this was 6 years ago or so. And she was very frightened, because diabetes definitely runs in this area too. Tennessee, there's a lot of people who are diabetic. So, but now her blood work looks great. She's not even close to being, she's not a diabetic. She's not even pre-diabetic. She's very healthy, and her weight and body composition looks way better. She has more energy. She also had an osteoarthritis in her big toe joint that was bothersome enough that she was worried she wasn't going to be able to walk in a few more years if it didn't, reverse. And we were able to deal with that and get that to go away now too. So she dances now like once a week at Take Charge Fitness.
Oh, be darn, that's awesome.
And it just feels better and better and better. But so there are natural ways, and I got them off all their drugs. So, they're not on anything now, neither my mother or my father, and their blood work looks better. And it hasn't inhibited or prevented their lifestyle. Quite the opposite. I think people are amazed that they're their age and they can go do hikes and they can do, things that a lot of people their age have trouble doing,
In meeting you made sense. And that's why I've decided now, while you proving to me on my blood work, Randy, if you can implement these and add these and this and this and this, we can get you to where you want to be physically, mentally, and of course, I just said mentally, and that's a whole nother category.
Yeah.
And we talked about the amount of anxiety that's happening in the nation now.
Yes.
The people, the mental health, and it's all due. I don't say all, but it's a lot to do with our diet.
There is, I believe, my professional opinion is there's a huge, and it's been proven, nutritional component to a lot of mental instabilities, so tendency towards depression or tendency towards suicide ideation or or anger or lack of impulse control, and a lot of these schizophrenia. It's a lot of it is nutrition based, and there are whole books written on this, and we are taught a lot in our nutrition classes, in naturopathic medical school, on how to use nutrition to help stabilize moods, and you can do it. You can do a lot with nutrition, a lot. So I try to start there. I try to start with food as medicine. I don't immediately jump to supplements, but sometimes supplements are definitely indicated to help kickstart you to where you need to go.
Right.
And
well, in the food though, and she's being very, general, and you're kind of like, oh, it's no big deal to eat the right foods, but it is triggered omega fats. Mm-hmm. And there's things that you completely you can pinpoint and say you need this will help your brain health,
right?
And
absolutely.
Lifestyles. And what I like about it is it's a recipe, mm-hmm. and you can see results from this. It's just not everybody. This is just not start eating more lettuce, all right, or more eating. There's a specific routine that you can do to change a lot that's going on. And
absolutely.
That's what I want to do with you in the future. And I know you said we've talked about this, that it's something that your passion is to educate people.
Right. I definitely consider myself a natural health educator. I have my master's in public health with a focus in public health education. So not like epidemiology or biostatistics, which is what a lot of people who get their master's in public health. I wanted to focus on how to educate the public. And so, ultimately, it frustrates me when I see people say, oh, well, you can get better if you just did a sauna and red light and this and all these things. And some of these things like PRP, platelet-rich plasma injections, it's very expensive. And so, even the natural field, if you're trying to go natural, you have to pay out of pocket to do all that. And it can get, and they're like, oh, well, you're going to need, 7 PRP injections, and they're going to cost, $300 each, and, whatever. Or we'll do red light therapy for your peripheral neuropathy on your feet, but you got to pay me $5,000 now for 4 treatments this month, and, and you got to do it up front. And so that kind of thing frustrates me, because a lot of us, especially now with costs seemingly going through the roof, people don't have money to pay out of pocket. So a lot of people would be willing to see a naturopath or a naturopathic doctor even in a state that they're licensed in. But you can't, because most states, even though the 26 states that do allow us to be licensed, they don't accept insurance. So insurance still won't cover us. The state of Washington is unique. You can choose on your insurance plan a naturopathic doctor as your primary care physician, and insurance will cover it. Wow. And that's fantastic, but they are unique. That's the exception, not the rule. So I get frustrated when people say, well, I would do, saunas every day, but I can't, afford, or I don't have the time to drive an hour to the place that has the sauna, or, there's always reasons that make it difficult for them to implement it, or too expensive. And so one of my goals as what I'm doing here is I want to empower people to learn how to do almost the most expensive things you can do at home. You can do them at home with almost the same effectivity as you would going to some fancy place. You can do a lot at home. You can do more than you have any idea you can do at home, and it works really, really well. So I have built my own systems because of my mechanical engineering background. I've built and tried and used these things and show people how to do them at their own home. Like, this is how you can do a carbon dioxide foot bath to heal your venous stasis ulcer, or your diabetic foot ulcer, or some wound that won't heal because you burned yourself on your arm or something like that. And how do I accelerate the healing? Well, you can use a carbon dioxide bath to help hyperoxygenate the tissue. And we don't do this at our conventional medicine because you can't make any money doing carbon dioxide baths. It's much easier to just give you a prescription for some burn cream, or send you to a clinic for your ulcer, rather than try to hyperoxygenate the tissue and regrow some of the marginal necrotic tissue. But you can. I've had amazing results doing this. They use it a lot in Europe and in China. They'll do diabetics. They put their feet in these foot baths that have these nanobubbles, carbon dioxide nanobubbles, to help regenerate the tissue as much as possible. sometimes before, sometimes after surgery to remove the really necrotic tissue. But it's phenomenal how even black toes, you can get half the toe back. There are pictures. I have a whole binder full of studies with photographs. You wouldn't believe what can be done. And it's not drugs. It's not anything. It's taking a foot bath. But these baths, so I was going to buy one so I could use it with clients and things if they want and show them. But they're like thousands of dollars. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so I built one at home for $30. And you can too. And I show people how to build them and use them at home, so that way they don't have to go to a clinic to take their carbon dioxide foot bath for their elderly mother's, diabetic foot ulcer, or for their venous stasis ulcer or whatever. You can do it at home every single day for pennies. And that's my goal. It's like, how do I take these things, EWAT systems and HOCAT systems. I've built them all, but not only have I built them and but I've made them so people can use them at home. They don't take up hardly any space, and they don't cost hardly anything to build. And then I can show you how to do it and yourself. So. And
therein is why I just think it was meant to be that we met each other, because you're taking nothing and making it out of something. And that's what I've done with these tiny homes. I took all our first tiny homes. It was junk, just stuff people would throw away, and built the most beautiful little houses that created this company.
That's right.
And also what we're doing now is taking this industrial park and turn it, I took you through a tour.
I said wow so many times. I don't know if I've ever said the word wow as many times as I did today.
Well, you're sweet, but
it's true.
And it's
spectacular.
I feel like you're doing that with medicine. You're doing that with natural stuff. You're creating.
I'm just trying to teach people and convince them that they can take care of themselves. There's so much they can do for even things that they feel like they have to see the doctor for. My goal is to help you not see the doctor.
Yeah, and that's when I mentioned, and this is my podcast, so I'm gonna. And I said we're going to talk about things people don't want to talk about, but there's this YouTube sensation, Gary Brecka, that went with the UFC fighter Danny White, and he was, obese. He was, on meds and depressions and all this stuff, and statins and all that. And he did the basic stuff with oxygen and, the nutrition and the fats, and did all this stuff. The real top of just bury this crust of the surface there, and got him completely off meds and everything, right?
Yeah.
But because he's so flamboyant, now he has got making millions off of this stuff because he's putting all this into a high dollar package deal. And this is where I love what I'm hoping you and I can somehow do. I can help you is to where you can show people your dream is to show people how we can do this. I mean, you can do this by showing people how they can.
I'd love to demonstrate some things and say, look, I mean, even the magnesium foam that I've tried to turn you on to, that's actually really super helpful. And you can't even buy it anywhere, but it works so well. And you can make it at home, and it will, absorb into your tissue and help with Charlie horses at night if you're waking up in the middle of the night. I mean, there's just so many things you can do for even the smallest thing that you've maybe decided this is my new normal. Like I'm going to have this knuckle on my hand hurt, which is de Quervain's, and it's just going to hurt because it's the way it is. Well, no, there's a lot you can do. My mom's fingers were even turning inward. They were starting to, the osteoarthritis was and we've reversed it. We've actually been able to reverse it, and she can't believe it. Her fingers are becoming straight, and it's just so there's and it's all natural stuff. I'm not doing anything.
My mom's poor toes were all twisted.
Now I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. But I am saying, even if you could just stop the progression, right? Then that's helpful. And what can you do? Well, there's so many things you can do. It's just I could talk forever, I can.
Yeah, I know you can. Yep. And she's been here for 4 or 5 hours, and it's been nonstop talking. But I just can't get enough of your personal life has been amazing, and then hearing about the medical part. My mom had osteoporosis when she was young.
Right.
And then as she got older, she was always drinking pickle juice at night because she'd have cramps in her calves and all this stuff. And I never knew what to do, anything, And now that I'm learning about this magnesium gel that you can put on, and of course I use it now. And
it's great for muscle recovery. So if you're trying to build muscle and look fit and tone, like the magnesium will transdermally absorb, especially if you add the DMSO like we've talked about. So like the formula I have is a little different than what you can get, but it's really effective, and it'll make muscle cramps go away like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I want to touch base on, and to bring light to what she's saying, is that we talked earlier about my buddy Wayne Justice, and he's fighting cancer, and he's on a protocol. And he's with Deb and then a couple other physicians that he's working his
I
whole
am
program.
not an oncologist, though.
Exactly.
I'm only a natural health educator, and, he's working with his oncologist.
Beautiful. Good. And we want to make sure that's said.
Yes.
Yeah. But she's been able to implement and help him with, what was it called? SWAT, or the oxygen?
EWAT. Yeah.
EWAT.
So exercise with oxygen therapy. Cancer hates oxygen. It likes more anaerobic environments, and it doesn't like it likes acidic environments, not basic. So there's certain things you can do to try to create an anti-cancer environment in your body, and especially for people who have like lung cancer, you really need to any cancer, really, if you can get oxygen to that tissue, it will help. It will help hopefully slow the progression down and make a difference. And it's safe, and it's not going to counteract any of the chemo or radiation or any other therapies you might be doing with your oncologist. So how do you get oxygen to the local area? So it depends on what the cancer is. If it's bladder cancer, or, how do you hyper-oxygenate it? Well, for lungs, breathing. It sounds simple, but like breathing and exercising is really important, because you're going to get more oxygen into the tissue. And it's because of the Bohr effect. So it's the carbon dioxide that signals the hemoglobin in your blood to release the oxygen where you want. So how do you get carbon dioxide to the tissue that needs the oxygen? Well, if it's skin cancer, you want to get carbon dioxide here, right? Because then the carbon dioxide is the physiological trigger that tells the hemoglobin, release oxygen here. So for exercise with oxygen therapy, you're exercising mildly. You don't have to go crazy, but even Olympic athletes will do EWAT to try to hyper-oxygenate their tissue and promote recovery, rapid recovery. But you can also use it for adjunctive cancer-type therapies, where even if you sit on a recumbent bicycle, so you're sitting back and you're nice and relaxed on a recumbent bicycle, and you mildly pedal the pedals for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Usually 15 is ideal. You don't have to go crazy and do this for hours. And you breathe concentrated oxygen while you're exercising. That has been shown to hyper-oxygenate that local environment, in this case the lungs, and can make a difference. Now, are there large epidemiological studies that are double-blind that have proven this? No, a lot of this is, just been learned, and, because studies are expensive, it's hard to prove, but there are many books written about it, and there is a lot of lower studies with just 10s and 20s of people, but it's effective. I mean, and it makes sense, because if you can exercise, when we exercise, the byproduct of exercise in the tissue we're using, so let's say we're lifting weights, the byproduct is carbon dioxide, and there's a reason for that, because that carbon dioxide you're producing in that muscle will then stimulate hemoglobin to release oxygen to that tissue. So like for carbon dioxide foot baths, the problem with a diabetic foot that has some necrotic tissue, there's no way to exercise that foot. You can't exercise it, so that means you can't create carbon dioxide in the toes, so you can't get the hemoglobin to, and maybe they have a lack of good circulation in their foot as well, because they haven't been, maybe they have venous stasis combined with, their diabetic foot. So how do you get the hemoglobin? How do you convince the hemoglobin, persuade it to release oxygen right where the damaged tissue is? And the way you do that is you put your foot in a bubble bath that has carbon dioxide nanobubbles, because the nanobubbles will transdermally absorb through the skin, and the little capillaries that are still alive, the ones that are still alive right next to the necrotic tissue, will see that carbon dioxide and will start dumping oxygen right there. And so it will start healing the tissue, and it just keeps growing, meaning the healing area just keeps progressing. And it's just phenomenal looking at these black toes on these studies, and then how they've regrown the tissue, and that's just phenomenal. So yeah,
amazing.
So the skin, if you have a history of basal cell carcinomas or whatever you have, like you can take a bubble bath, like you just get into your bathtub and put some bath bombs. A bath bomb is just baking soda and citric acid in a particular combination. It creates bubbles, little nanobubbles. And if you stay still, they'll stick on your skin. They will transdermally absorb through your skin into the dermis. And then your hemoglobin will start dumping oxygen, and you will hyper-oxygenate all your skin. So supermodels and Hollywood movie stars commonly do they call it carbonic acid bathing, and they'll do dry bathing, but you can do wet bathing. You can actually just go in your bathtub and use bath bomb. The problem is the bath bombs dissolve and then they're done, so you'd have to keep putting them in there to get, a good 20-minute bath. But you can put your body in a bag. They have these carbonic acid bags with a big neck seal and wrist seals, and you spray water on your skin, and then you fill the bag up with carbon dioxide, and it does the same thing. It transdermally absorbs, and it will regenerate and age your skin, and they've shown that it gets rid of cellulite and all kinds of things. But the bags alone are $1,000. I mean, they're expensive. You can take a bath. You can just get in your bathtub, and you can buy citric acid and baking soda and put it in your bathtub and swirl it around, and you'll see these fizz come up, right? And then you can take a bath. Now the thing is, we will asphyxiate if we breathe carbon dioxide. So if you are in a room with a bathtub and it's sealed really well, and you close the door and you keep putting this in the bathtub, like you need to monitor the carbon dioxide in the room, because the carbon dioxide level will increase. So you should open the door of your bathroom, if you're going to be in there a long time, continuing to make bubbles, right? So I don't like using the citric acid and the baking soda anymore because it requires a lot. So I've just made a little nano bubbler myself for, like I said, $30, and I put it in my bathtub. And whenever I take a bath, I just take my carbonic acid bath and let the bubbles go the whole time.
Nice. Yeah.
It's easy to do. All of this is super easy to do.
I know. Like, well, Wayne,
very effective.
Wayne, he's
EWAT. Yeah, so Wayne.
He took the air mattress that you bought, for, I don't know, for $150 or whatever it is, hung it on a wall like these curtains are. Yeah. And then an oxygen concentrator, which I had a buddy who's in the medical field, got him one.
Great.
$300-$400.
Yep.
And now you've got your whole EWAT system.
Yeah, you just need a mask and then CPAP hoses.
Yeah.
And usually the masks are expensive too, but you can just buy a mask that you would normally put on if you're painting and want to, like at Lowe's, and they're like $20, these masks.
Yeah.
And you can then modify them for a CPAP hose like that, super easy, and then connect the CPAP hoses to the oxygen reservoir, which is, in this case, I showed him how to use a mattress that had the TPU line, so it doesn't off-gas chemicals into the concentrated oxygen.
Right.
And then you can just breathe the concentrated oxygen while you're on the recumbent bicycle. Yeah.
Right. And this is what I hope, I don't know, that maybe in the future you and I would be cool to be able to have you come back and we'll demonstrate these things.
Absolutely.
And create all these home remedies.
I'd love to show it all.
Yeah.
And I want to empower people to know how to do this. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. And then for pennies that we can do this. Mm-hmm. And I love when I was at your home, okay, because you got your clinic, your home.
I do.
And your foldable sauna.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were talking earlier, that you live in a tiny house like all of our customers do. They pull it out of underneath their bed, sit in the living room, get inside.
That's right. So my whole time through medical school, and I had to move around a bunch, I would not go anywhere without it. So I always made sure I had my sauna with me. And sometimes I had access to a bigger one that was a full-size one. But if I didn't, like at one point, I was actually living in a tiny house. And in the little tiny house, it was very small. I had my folding IR sauna, and I've tested it for electromagnetic radiation to make sure it was a good one that didn't have too much, bad EMF coming off of it. And then I would sit all the way inside of it because I wanted to get even my head hot. But you don't have to do that. You can have your head stick out. And then I hung red lights. So I had red light therapy going on inside at the same time as the heat, right? And you can even do more than that. Like you can actually, there's so much more you can do. Yeah. Like, HOCAT machines, they actually put carbon dioxide in a hard chamber, but you can actually modify even those small ones and put carbon dioxide in it and then breathe your concentrated oxygen. So in other words, while you're in the sauna, breathe concentrated oxygen. So your lungs are getting good oxygen and replenishing it in your hemoglobin while your skin is being flooded with carbon dioxide.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what a HOCAT machine is, but you can make your own foldable one and can put it wherever you want it. The problem is, remember, if you're doing carbon dioxide, you don't want to be in an enclosed space where the carbon dioxide level, you need to like open a window or something, and that's usually enough. But there's so much you can do. You can combine red light therapy. You can combine the red light therapy with IR therapy, with carbon dioxide in your skin and concentrated oxygen, all right in a tiny space, like very tiny space.
See what I like, and you can do this for pennies
Yes.
compared to these huge clinics that are costing thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, you can,
and then we throw in your tinctures and a little bit of stuff like that.
You do the whole thing,
I'm so excited. I'm so excited about all this.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking today, and it's what was really cool is I've always wanted to build a wellness clinic. And I was thinking about on the mountain. She goes, Randy, I've got an entire portfolio booklet of every detail of a wellness clinic that you had been dreaming about for years, of how it was laid out, how it was built, and all the.
It was my dream. Like I've collected what if I could wave my magic wand, what would a health and wellness center look like? And I've been collecting that for 10 years.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens.
This is just so exciting to There's so many people here that I lost a dear friend with cancer that I tried to help, and I sent him to a clinic in Kentucky. So I didn't know much about it. I knew that he needed to go somewhere, and we found one in Kentucky, and I want to get into what you said earlier here, and this is what happened with him, and I totally understood why. But when he got there, it's hard work, and applying natural remedies and a natural way of doing takes sacrifice, and it takes hard work. And him and his wife had a hard time, eating the certain foods, doing the things you need to do, moving your body, moving yourself, focusing your mind. It takes work.
Yeah, the work, it sounds scary. So I guess what I like to say it's you just have to change how you live. So I tell people when it comes to diets or diabetes and everything like that, I don't put anyone on diets. I don't believe in calorie counting. I don't believe in diets. I believe in just changing what you eat, when you eat it, and how you eat it, like what combinations and general guidelines. And then that just becomes how you eat, right? I don't call it a diet, right? So, and people get frustrated. I have a bunch of clients who are trying to do weight loss, and they have hypothyroidism, and so they're like, I cannot get rid of this weight no matter what I do, and so I work with them, and we always say in medical school, naturopathic medicine is slow medicine. And it is. And so I've been able to help slowly wean them off thyroid medication, get their thyroid working again, which will help lower their weight set point so their body just sheds the weight. But it's work only if you're thinking I'm forcing myself to do something that I don't want to do already. But if it's just a lifestyle change that we've slowly, progressively done, then it's like, I take a shower in the morning. Yes, I brush my teeth, and now I wash my sinuses out. That's it. It's just how you live now. And so it's just a new way of living.
There you go.
But, it doesn't have to be work. It doesn't have to feel that way because, and you can still cheat and everything. I mean, that's all allowed. But when it comes to weight loss, especially, you have to retrain your body. It's a hormonal dysregulation is what weight issues are. And we have to retrain your body to for the leptin and the ghrelin and the cortisol and the insulin. We have to slowly train your body to respond differently to food. And so that way your metabolism has raised, and you'll just start shedding the weight, and you won't feel like it's work, but you will have to make decisions. And if there's donuts right there, you may not want to eat them, but then after a while, you won't even want them. It definitely, you'll get to a point where it won't even look appealing anymore. But that can take years. Like, for my mother, I attribute my health right now to her because, while I'm working on trying to get my business going, she does all the cooking, and I'm grateful as heck because she follows strict, what we like to eat, which is salads and fresh foods. And it takes going to the grocery store and getting it. But when you look at, you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. Right? So you might as well eat good food with super expensive, fancy olive oil, because other that, or it's either that or paying for some medication later. So we just choose to buy very high quality food but it doesn't have to be a lot of work. I was just telling you what I had for lunch yesterday, and it was super quick and easy. I've figured out ways to do quick, easy, healthy foods and you just figure things out that work for your lifestyle, and then it's not a big deal.
Well, doing that is, having to go get the food and having to prep it and having to do it. It was, I don't want to do that. I just want to run down to McDonald's or something, of course. But just the process of getting that ready is helping your body. You're moving, your body's moving, your brain, you're being, all that. I think even the process is healthy, not only just the foods,
It
And
can be fun too. I mean, it does, just like doing laundry, that's not fun. You got to do laundry. And so, like cooking when you don't want to cook is not fun. But after a while, it gets to where you don't even really want to go out and have this crappy meal somewhere, because you're like, I'd rather stay in and eat my healthy meal.
All right. So I want you to explain to everybody. All right. You had the munchies at 9:00.
Oh, last night. Yes.
Yeah. And you guys got to listen to this little snack, and I'm going to start eating it every night.
So I was trying to describe to Randy, what do I do when I've already had my dinner, but all of a sudden I'm still hungry? I could blow it right then by eating crackers or something that does not do well for me, since diabetes runs in our family.
Chips and Doritos.
Just open the refrigerator and eat something quick and easy that's not, and I just blew the whole rest of my day, right? And so for me yesterday, I had a small dinner, which is not usual for me, and because of that, I got hungry at 8:00. So what I did, or 8:30 or whatever it was. So my philosophy for weight loss and the clients that I work with is you should always eat when you're hungry. Don't ever feel like you're starving, because you're going to train your metabolism to be in starvation mode. And that has been proven in huge studies to train your hormones to hold on to every calorie as fat. So you have to eat when you're hungry. So it's just what you choose to eat, right? So what was my options? Well, in the evening, I wanted something sweet and delicious.
Of course.
So I'm like, so what am I going to do that I can eat that's not going to be bad for me, And I got a big spoonful. This is my normal standby, cheat in the evening. I got a big spoonful of yogurt, not like a whole cup's worth of yogurt, probably half a cup's worth of yogurt that you get in a yogurt cup, about a half of that. And it was just the Fage 5% milk fat. I always get the full of fat because that's the best. So I take the full of fat yogurt and I put it in a bowl, and then I poured about half a cup of heavy whipping cream on it.
I love heavy whipping cream.
And then I put a whole bunch I got a big bag of the wild Maine blueberries, frozen blueberries, and I just poured a whole bunch. And I had a big handful on them, right? So that you can't even see anything. They're all covered in cream and yogurt, right? And then I have this mix that I make that I keep in the refrigerator, and it's ground hemp seed, chia seed, flax, and cacao nibs, and a little bit of coconut flakes, and I grind each of them separately and then mix them together and put them in a little jar so I can scoop it out. And so all of that is really healthy. The hemp has a lot of protein in it and easy to digest, and the flax is going to help bind to cholesterol and get rid of cholesterol. And so I put 3 heaping spoonfuls, just huge spoonfuls on top of all the blueberries, and then I mixed it all up, right? And then it was too thick because the blueberries were freezing everything. So then I got water and I put water on it. So now I have this huge bowl of this blueberry creamy deliciousness, and then it's not sweet enough, right? So I put ribose powder in it, because D-ribose powder is a superfood for your heart. It actually regenerates cardiac myocytes, so cardiac muscle cells. For my dad, who is recovering from heart surgery, I have him put it in his coffee every morning instead of sugar. It's sweet, it tastes delicious, so I use that as my sugar replacement. It does not cause your glycemic, your glucose to go up at all. And so I put like 2 spoonfuls of ribose powder on it to make it sweet, and then I stirred it all up, and you have this sweet blueberry creamy deliciousness. And then I just ate the whole thing, and I was stuffed, and then that was great. And it does not make, in fact, these days right now, because I had gained some weight and I'm still losing weight, so it didn't actually do anything to blow my diet. You can eat that
guilt-free.
Yeah.
Not even worried.
Because the blueberries have just a little bit of carbohydrates, but mixing them with fat will help your glucose not spike. And then all of that fiber will help you have a bowel movement in the morning, which is great, and it'll help lower your cholesterol. And so you're training your hormones to burn fat, and you're training your hormones to not think that there's lack. And so over time, now I wouldn't probably eat that every single day at night, but I could eat that once or twice a week, and that would be fine. And I could make a smaller bowl, but I was starving last night, so I just ate the big bowl. But, that's my cheat at night. And I have several other little cheats too, that if I'm hungry after dinner, that's what I will eat. But it's taken a while to figure it out, what is a healthy, delicious, thing to eat
And that right there is why I'm thinking, oh, wow, if we had this economical wellness clinic that people could come to, learn all these stuff for a week or two, they go back home and they practice it.
Yeah.
And so what I'm listening to you're saying that if somebody wanted to lose weight, there's no need to be hungry.
Right. Absolutely.
When you want to lose
weight.
weight.
When my mom was pre-diabetic, she's like, Deb, I'm always hungry. That's the problem, is I'm constantly, I never am not hungry. And no matter how many calories I cut out of my diet, I'm just starving. I feel like that's all I can think about is I'm starving. That's what she told me. And I'm like, okay, well, you're doing it wrong. So now I asked her recently, just a month ago, I said, so you remember when you told me that, Mom? I said, how do you feel now? Do you feel like you're constantly starving? She's like, no, I can't even eat everything on my plate.
And she's thin. I've seen her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's lost weight and she's full. She's super full all the time. Right. So,
wow.
But it took about 4 years or at least to try to, turn that ship around, because she had her whole life, that got her to where she was at. And we had to retrain her metabolism to be metabolically flexible and to be fat adapted, which means burn fat as soon as glucose isn't available. And that took some work. And the first couple of years are rougher. You can't cheat as much, right? You can't cheat. But now once your body's trained, then you can cheat a little bit more and it won't cause huge problems like blood glucose spikes or gaining weight.
Yeah. A little bit I learned is you can't, if you just hurry up and lose weight or hurry up and gain weight, it is horrible for your body, your whole metabolism.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't stick, because then you're just on this yo-yo. So naturopathic medicine is slow medicine, and if you're willing to put in just a little bit of effort and you have some guidelines on what you're trying to do, and you have some plans set in place, okay, well, what if I'm hungry in the morning and, more than usual, what do I eat, and so this is my go-to food when I'm hungry, then it takes less effort than you think once you set everything up.
Yeah, and I know that, I called it work, and you're right, I don't need to call it work to be healthy, but like a lot of the ladies and people are now...
It takes some effort.
That's right. And
maybe I'm being picky about my words. But.
Well, you should be, because, the Manjaro, and some peptides that the movie stars are taking now, and a lot of people are losing weight. Oprah, and I think a lot of the people are losing it. But at the same time, because they're losing it so fast, what is the thing about losing muscle? Sarcopenia or something? Yeah,
so, you just got to be careful with,
They're not eating enough, eating enough protein and stuff.
And depending on your age and if you're male or female and all kinds of things, muscle wasting has been proven to start at age 40. So once you hit age 40, you start losing muscle mass. It just goes down like this. And so I have some lectures on YouTube. One's called Preventing Bone Breaks. And I talk about the 3 main aspects of what causes people to have a bone break, right? And one of them is sarcopenia, which means you start losing your muscle mass. And when you start losing your muscle mass along with your bone density going down and loss of proprioception, which is your ability to know where you are in space, so you're off balance a little, when you start degrading in those 3 categories, now you're prone to breaking a hip or breaking a bone. So, but sarcopenia is one of the 3 main things that, leads to an increased risk of bone breaks. And all the studies I show on my lecture show that at age 40, you might have this much muscle mass on your arm, and then it goes down and down and down and down, till 80 you have, so 40 years later, when you're 80, you have 50% of the muscle mass, cross-sectionally speaking, on your legs and on your arms, if you don't do anything active to try to counteract that. So how do you, and so then I go into the lecture, what causes sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting, and a lot of it's not eating enough protein. But what I found looking at many, many, many people's blood work now is it's not that they're not eating enough protein. If I believe what they're telling me, it's that they're not digesting it properly, so they can't absorb the protein. And then as we get older, especially women, but even men, we start having, sometimes when you're in your 70s, you'll start losing your taste for meat. You're like, I don't want that big giant steak anymore. It doesn't sound appealing. So people will start eating less and less protein. So then you got to figure out ways to get your protein from collagen powder or other sources, because most older people, that's 40 and older, aren't eating enough protein to keep their muscle mass on, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to all of it, and but there's a lot you can do. Astaxanthin is an antioxidant that is an internal sunscreen that also helps contribute to retaining and building lean muscle mass. Glycine is a powder I've talked to you about that it's sweet. It tastes like sugar almost, and it looks like sugar. And you can put it in a cup of chamomile tea before you go to bed and drink it. And it does 3 things. It helps you build lean muscle mass because it's just an amino acid. That's all it is. It's like front steak, And then it also helps reduce urinary frequency at night for men, and it helps put you into delta wave sleep earlier, and so you wake up feeling more refreshed, like you've had a better night's sleep. So that's 3 reasons why I think anyone who's 50 years old and older should be taking glycine at night, because it's just a food supplement that tastes sweet like sugar and it's delicious. So why not put it in your chamomile tea and drink it before you go to bed as a nightly, a routine, right?
Yep. And there you go. And you guys can see why now I have her here. And what she's doing for me is I told her, I said, I want a plan. I want a plan of how I need to live, what I need to eat, when I need to sleep. And it's timing of what you eat, when you eat it, the things you eat.
Macronutrient profiles.
There's a whole, there's a whole regimen about this. And I'm willing to take on the, not work, but the effort to make this happen. People ask me all the time, they said, because we got the tiny homes in multiple divisions here, developing land, other properties we're building. We're starting another company out of building foundational homes, and I want to do a wellness clinic. I mean, so I got all these things going on, right?
Yeah.
And people said, how in the world do you keep all that in your head? How do you make that work, And the little bit that I've done, and I'm going to do even more now that I've met you, is that, I've been able to stay away from a lot of processed foods and sugars and the only reason is I did it because it made me feel awful. So if I would drink something sugary or eat, we talked earlier about a cookie or something, I would get so lethargic and just like I just drank a glass of wine,
Right.
And it was my glucose was spiking. And so I stayed away from all that. And even as I get older, I'm finding that I'm more focused, I have more clarity, and I have more of ability to handle more stress than I ever have in my life.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
We can all do that.
And for you just saying that doesn't have to stop.
No,
we can
get
keep
better and
doing
better.
that. Yeah. I don't wear eyeglasses yet, and I'm fortunate that I can still see fairly well without any glasses.
Fantastic.
And I'm like, it has to do with a little bit of me restricting my lifestyle from not indulging in certain bad things. I'm assuming, I don't know. But that's what I want to stay with. And so Great. Combining with knowing that I can do this on a budget, I can do it living in a tiny house.
You sure can.
And then be healthy and get better as I get older.
That's right.
You're like a grand slam. you're like an alien landed here. I was like, okay, I'm gonna put you in a glass bottle so nobody else can get you. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think people have every reason to be hopeful. Like, we can talk about so many things in future podcasts. I can talk about kidney stones and how to prevent them, but also how to help dissolve them, promote them dissolving before you go to the emergency room, and just so many things.
I know. So my guys are working on the floor. Yeah. They're young guys. They're dealing with reflux.
Yeah.
There's guys already dealing with their backs hurting, their knees hurting, their carpal tunnel. We do a lot of physical work here.
And gout and even lacerations. Like I can show what you can do for, lacerations and how you don't have to run and get stitches. There's easy.
We need that here.
There's a method that you can do and I showed you my wound kit that I have that I just recently used on my own knee because I have a big laceration right now on it from hiking. I slipped and fell, but I used my own wound kit and gave myself these makeshift stitches, which is easy to do and actually has less chance of scarring, and you can do it at home, and it's not hard to do. It's actually easy, and so there's so many things we can teach people to do that I think will empower everyone to stay out of the doctor's office.
As you guys see, I'm excited about this. This is other than building homes or building things. I love building stuff.
Yep.
Me too. This is my second love. This is my second desire to do in life.
Absolutely.
Because it impacts everything. And so hopefully in the future you and I can do more together. I'd love to have you on the podcast more And who knows what we'll do with this.
That sounds great.
I know everybody here is going to be excited about your next visit and what we can do. So what I'd like to do is we'll get organized.
Yes.
And we'll think about, okay, what do we want to topic next time?
This was sort of free form.
Yeah. And then we'll say, all right, we're going to hit this. And we're going to hope that she can come here and maybe give some lectures to people that live here and outside people that want to come in. And I really hope it turns into something that can turn into your dream of teaching people how to do this on a budget.
Yep.
And especially,
I love talking to larger audiences, so I'd love to do some little lectures around here or wherever about whatever topics people are interested in.
Yeah, we're going to take it on the road.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, let everybody know your YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's just if you go to the YouTube and you type in Emergent Space Health, you should see me come up, and it's just a white background with a dragonfly, and you'll know that's me, and you just click on it and click on videos, and I have about 34 lectures that are free online right now that are about an hour each. And they're all live lectures that I just video recorded, but I have them on kidney stones and aging gracefully and preventing bone breaks and, all kinds of things. Emergent Health, yeah. So this is my logo right here with a little dragonfly, and that's the logo you'll see on YouTube when you type in Emergent Health. And because we're all, in my opinion, we all have the ability to be healthy, it just needs to emerge. We need to uncover the obstacles that are holding us back from being healthy. We need to emerge. And so, because the health is there, the potential's there in all of us, we just need to uncover it. Remove the obstacles to cure. We need to figure it out. And so that's why I chose Emergent.
Health.
Yeah, and so there's already a ton of lectures. Just check them all out. And I have one on EWAT, the exercise with oxygen therapy. I show in 13 minutes how to build your own system at home. Yeah. So there's just a lot on there.
Oh, we'll get ready to close here, but my buddy Wayne, he's got this huge air mattress now hanging from his wall. Got an air concentrator, putting it in there. He's got his mask. He's got his bicycle. He's got his sauna. He's got his red light, and he's doing his diet. And it's a complete lifestyle protocol, and he's fighting his cancer, And he's done it. He's retired. He's on a budget. If he had to go to a clinic, it'd be thousands of dollars to do what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And his doctor that he's under care, and you've been, like you said, you've been supplementing, just giving advice. Mm-hmm. And his doctor was like, "Where did you learn to do all this? How can you afford this?" And then he told him how he was doing it at home on such a budget. Mm-hmm. And the doctor was like, "You are spot on."
Yeah, that was the Georgia doctor that who was more open to adjunctive cancer treatments, but they validated everything that I was educating him on as options. So that was great.
All right, so thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely, it was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy this. There's so much more. We just hit on just a little speck, all right? Right. This is an atomic bomb that I got sitting across from me. And so anyway, we will see you again, hopefully.
That sounds fantastic. I can't wait.
All right.
All right, bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.